What do you say? What do you know? It's the full Monte Sports Show. It is Monday, June 27th, 2022. I am your host, Monte Perez, aka the Sports Whisperer. Want to thank everyone for tuning in 2 weeks ago. We had a severe power outage for 9 hours last Monday, so we could not do the show. But 2 weeks ago, we had 37 states tune in across the country. Thank you all so much for tuning in and watching. Make sure to follow us on social media, Nuts and Bolts Sports. Subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts Sports YouTube channel. Give us the thumbs up here. And we are now at 825,000 views on TikTok, 825,000 views. My goal was to have 1 million views by July 1st. I don't know if I'll get there, but I set a healthy goal. So thank you for that. Really appreciate that. This is a Nuts and Bolts Sports show today. We have Greg Rector going to come on, and we have Keith Richards, who is absolutely ecstatic right now because of the Colorado Avalanche beating the Tampa Bay Lightning. Look, I had the Rangers beating Tampa Bay Lightning, and part of it was the goaltending, and also part of it was it's almost impossible to win 3 Stanley Cups in a row. The last team to do it, the Islanders won 4 cups in a row, 1980, 81, 82, and 83. Those great Islanders teams with Dennis Potvin, Brian Trottier, Billy Smith. They won the Stanley Cup 4 times in a row. No team has won 3 times in a row since the mid-'80s. So congrats to Keith. Congrats to the Colorado Avalanche. We'll get them on. Of course, keep the comments coming. Let's start each show with the good, the bad, and the funny if we get time. And the funny if we get time. Okay, so there's a lot of talk about offseason now, and we're going to get into this with Keith. People working out, trades, KD. People are talking about DeJounte Murray maybe joining the Atlanta Hawks. People talking about Kyrie Irving. Like I said, Kevin Durant, Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal just signed with the Washington Wizards. So there's a lot going on. And I'm seeing now more criticism of LeBron James. And look, I'm a LeBron James fan for one reason and one reason only. I'm fans of people who are grinders. I'm fans of people who dedicate everything to their profession. Now, LeBron James, okay, was on vacation, and there was a video of him working out on vacation at 5 in the morning. Then there was a video 4 nights in a row of Kevin Durant at clubs. And that's fine. It's the off season. Enjoy yourself. But the hatred of LeBron James, I don't understand it, right? Let's go back to the decision, right? The decision was not even his idea. ESPN decided to do it, and LeBron said, we'll do it if you donate a certain amount of money. The decision helped donate over $2 million for Boys and Girls Clubs. LeBron James donated and raised over $4 million. Now, people say LeBron couldn't win on his own, but he was a 4-time champion and he's won 4 MVPs in the finals. And up until recently, think about this. In 6 of his first 9 finals, he led both teams in scoring, rebounds, and assists. Both teams. Both teams. And people say, oh, he's chasing a ring. Shaq played for 6 teams. Now, let's talk about the decision again. Now, if they pick one athlete, one free agent from each sport, and they say, hey, we're going to do an announcement, and you're going to announce what team you're going on, and we'll raise $2 to $4 million for your charity, I'd watch. I would think that would be awesome. But people hated him for that. So forget that he's a grinder on the court. I want to reiterate to all the haters out there what LeBron James is doing with his school. He is literally supplying an entire community in Ohio with books, food, sneakers. They're going to get free college. In what world does this guy not deserve credit? Now, look, I've heard stories about LeBron James personally. Some people don't think he's a good guy. Whatever. I'm no moralist. He hasn't committed a crime. He's never gotten in trouble off the field. But just think about what he's doing for an entire community. All these kids are going to end up getting free college. They have a food pantry. You could take home food. They get 2 or 3 sneakers, clothes per year, a backpack, free books. This guy is doing more than our politicians. So you can hate on LeBron James' game. I don't give a rip if you think Jordan is better than him or Kobe Bryant. Who cares? In my opinion, the top 5 greatest basketball players of all time are LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Kareem, and Larry Bird. That's my opinion. I don't care what your opinion is. But for all this criticism of LeBron, think about what he can't win. He couldn't win on his own. He was the best player in the NBA Finals. That's why he has 4 Finals MVPs. If more people did what LeBron did or is doing for their community, politicians, the world, America, which is a disaster right now, would be a better place. So that's the good. Now let's talk to the bad. And speaking of a disaster, so Vince McMahon is taking a step away from the WWE. And he's taken a step away because he paid someone that he had a consensual affair with $3 million for a non-disclosure agreement. Now, for those of you who know anything about the WWE and Vince McMahon, I don't care about their personal life. I don't care about their personal life. Him and his wife have been estranged for years. They've gone through separations. They're not what I think they're a business couple is what they are, which is fine. That's between them two. But what makes no sense to me is that Vince McMahon had this consensual affair. He's worth $2.4 billion. And they're alleging that he paid this woman $3 million from funds from the WWE. Now, there's something not right here. If it's a consensual affair, why is he like taking money that doesn't really technically belong to him, the $3 million, and giving it to this woman? Why not just pay from his personal account? He's worth $2.4 billion. Now, I know people who have worked for the WWE, and every one of them has said the same thing. It's like a 1980s fraternity house. Sexism, drugs, alcohol, party. It's like the dream job for a single guy or a single woman when you're 21 through 25. And what amazes me is that these WWE fans are defending him and saying he's not that person. Vince McMahon is kind of like Donald Trump on steroids. That's what he is. And I don't care that he had an affair. That's between him, his estranged wife, and whoever the woman is. I don't even care that he paid her $3 million. But he paid her $3 million out of company money, and you cannot do that. You cannot do that. And all these people who are shocked, oh, but Vince seems so nice. In what world does Vince McMahon seem like a nice guy? In what world is that? And again, this goes along with what my closing final extra point is going to be. Just because you have money, just because you could throw a football, dunk a basketball, hit a baseball, just because you're an actor, a movie star, an actress, just because you're worth millions of dollars, if we don't have a set of laws that are the same for everyone, then we really don't have a democracy as we know it. And people say, Monty, you can't talk politics. This is not about politics. This is about right or wrong. This is holding people accountable no matter who you are, no matter who you are. And we'll get to Greg and your comments in a moment. But going back to this point, Jeffrey Epstein died in prison. Ghislaine Maxwell is looking at 30 to 50 years in prison. They ran an underage sex ring. Not one of their clients has been arrested. So the guy who started it all, his right-hand woman, those evil bastards, okay, he died in prison. Okay, if you want to believe that, suicide, whatever. She's looking at 30 to 50 years in jail. So they're guilty. How come none of their clients have been indicted? Why? We can't have these rules here. I don't care if Vince McMahon is worth 10 billion, 100 billion. He did something that you're not supposed to be doing. He paid off someone through company money. And that's why he's stepping away. He did something very, very wrong. Very, very wrong. All right, let's get to the comments. Yeah, Vince is a creep. Dude is yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, Greg's going to come on in a minute. Again, people want to hate LeBron James, and I'm just like, do you know how many lives this guy has saved? Do you know how many people he has taken out of poverty and fed them, clothed them, gotten them books, gotten them medical attention? I don't think athletes should be role models. I don't. This is one of the reasons why I voted for Joe Biden. In 2000, I voted for Bush. I've been a Republican. I've been a Democrat. I voted for independents. I voted for all people in my life, but I don't wave around a Biden flag because he's not my idol. I don't look to actors, actresses. Can I respect someone? Yes, I respect and admire Coach Mike Krzyzewski. And one of the things that changed my mind about Mike Krzyzewski and Duke, when I was a little kid, I loved Syracuse. My brother George was a Villanova fan. I loved Syracuse. And then when I started coaching college basketball, we there I coached Division III at AAU. Their season started a couple weeks before us, so I would travel all up and down the East Coast going to camps. We'd spend the weekend there. So I went to um, a Syracuse practice, and it was like an eighth grade practice. They played like a 2-3 zone. They got some shots up. They ran some sprints. Jim Boeheim would stop maybe 2 or 3 times and yell at people and then move on. It was the lamest practice. So I'm like, okay, we'll come back tomorrow. Same thing. Then I went to Duke practice a week later, and it was to the minute. Everything was accounted for, blowing the whistle, no joking, no laughing, work your ass off. Now, Jim Boeheim has been a tremendous success. There are different ways to win. But the organization, and then I worked for Chris Collins when he was at Seton Hall, who later went on to Duke, and Chris Collins ran the tightest basketball camp to the minute I've ever seen. I'll give you one final example, then we'll get Greg on. So the first day of camp, kids get their food, and then you're supposed to put the trays up. Bring your trays up. There was about 15 trays that kids just left there. And I heard some kids say, yeah, they have workers who do that. So we were supposed to play games from 7 to 10 o'clock. No, Chris Collins went off. How dare these people are working here. They don't want to pick up your crap. For 3 hours, we ran sprints. We did calisthenics. They didn't pick up a basketball. The rest of the week, not one tray was left on that table. And Chris Collins said again, if one tray is left on there, we will cancel the games and we will run all day. I mean, the respect that I had for Chris Collins at 26, 27 years old, the way people, they liked him, but they feared him because they're like, we can't fool around. We can't be lazy. And he said, you leave your tray. He's like that. You're going to leave your house dirty, your bedroom dirty, your car dirty. He turned it into this whole big thing. And for the rest of the camp, there was not one tray left on the thing. So yeah, there's different ways to succeed. I'm a grinder. I like discipline. My day is pretty much the same thing 5 days a week. I get up at 7, work out, go to my job, write, do TikTok videos, prepare for the show. 7 to 10 every day. I respect grinders. That's why I respect LeBron James. Okay, like I said, this is a nuts and bolts sports crew show. Let's bring on our good friend Greg, Rector, and Keith. How you guys doing today?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Keith, let's start with you because you were a little nervous last night. I think I tweeted 2 or 3 times. You got this. Congratulations. Talk about how this Colorado Avalanche team, real quick, went from being terrible 5 years ago. Joe Sakic comes in, has some patience, and it paid off.
It's well, one is Joe Sakic. He made a really good choice in drafting, or not drafting, or but allowing Bednar to stay here as coach. Um, and then it's really just patience and allowing the talent to grow. When you had Ladden Scott coming, he was the youngest captain of all time. You add McKinnon, you add McCarr, you make some really good decisions in free agency and trades with you get Kadiri, Burakovsky. Really, it was a long time coming, but they were patient enough to let it play out without just blowing it up before it was too early. Um, and because really they could have did a lot of changes when they were missing the Stanley Cup Finals because they're out in the second round every year. It would have been really easy just to say, "All right, this isn't working. Let's go in a different direction." But they stayed patient, and it paid off in the end.
You know, I heard a quote from Sakic early this morning, where he said, "We didn't build." And again, that's I love the comment. He goes, "We didn't build this for a one-off." He goes, "We expect to be competitive and elite for a long period of time." Greg, you watch a lot of hockey. I think my Rangers have a great chance next year if they get another score because they were the youngest team in the playoffs. Is this team, are we looking at the Colorado Detroit runs like we saw in the 90s?
In the NHL, NBA, I don't care what league we're in anymore. You can't talk about runs unless they actually go out and do it. It's sure the possibility is there, but you have to remember the other franchises are doing whatever it takes to improve as well, right? And to win the Stanley Cup, it is the toughest of the major sports trophies to win. I don't care what anybody says. Nothing comes close to what you have to go through to get the Stanley Cup. The physicality, etc., that it takes to win a Stanley Cup, it is the hardest one to win. But in terms of teams that would go on a run, they might be Western Conference finalists next year, but they may not get back to a Stanley Cup.
Right. Keith, how confident were you going into the series? Because I had Colorado winning in 6. I also had the Rangers beating Tampa Bay in 6. I just don't. I'm so sick of Tampa Bay. But were you confident because of their speed? There was a big question mark about your goalie. If he's a Stanley Cup goalie, he proved everyone wrong.
Yeah, if there was one question going into the series, it for sure was the goalie. Um, and it's just he's not consistent. There's times when he can be brilliant, like we saw in Game 4, and then there's times where he's getting five-holed multiple times a game
Yeah.
because it's just like he can't see the puck.
Right.
But I think the level of comfort set in after they got past the Blues in the second round because it was getting to that point to where here we go again in the second round. They're not going to get it done, but they ended up winning in 6. And then it was further more of a comfort level when they swept the Oilers in the conference finals. So I think after that, um, I picked the Avalanche in 6 as well. I wasn't trying to dismiss Tampa Bay. It was their third straight Stanley Cup final, but the Avalanche were the best team all season long,
Yeah,
and they
they were.
proved that throughout the season, and they proved that in the Stanley Cup finals and throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah.
They were. Absolutely. Congratulations to you. It's nice to have your home city win. All right, Greg. Let's talk about it. Golden State won their 4th title. I don't understand why people don't look at Steph Curry and aren't amazed at what a career that he's had. You know, I mean, just look at this: 4-time NBA champion, 2-time MVP, 8-time All-Star. I mean, why do you think people dislike him? Is it because they don't like his game? They think he's soft? By the way, if you've seen Steph Curry lately, he's gained about 15 pounds of muscle.
Oh yeah, he's put on the muscle. Um, this goes to the same thing that you were talking about with LeBron earlier. People just need to have a narrative so that they can come out and hate, and it's really ridiculous. Like, am I a big Steph Curry fan? No, and you know why? Because I'm an old school guy when it comes to basketball. I love the big men. I want the ball at the basket. I'm not a fan of 3-point shooting. And okay, when everybody was celebrating the fact that Steph had made 500 threes in the playoffs, yeah, he's also missed 1,500.
Greg,
You know,
you'd be the perfect assistant coach on San Antonio because Greg Popovich is not a fan of the 3-point shot either.
hey, I get in trouble for and our friend Jared is a Spurs fan.
Yeah,
I loved that fundamental basketball.
right,
I love, and look, I can handle other types because, as you know, I'm a Lakers fan. I love Showtime.
right.
But what I don't like is what we saw a lot of in these playoffs in the prior series, and even in the finals to a degree, just jacking them up. Let's miss some more. Let's miss some more. That is so boring to me to watch. It has just bored me to death watching guys throw up these terrible 3-point shots that weren't going in.
Greg,
If you're making your shots, I'm okay. But when they're not going in, you better be able to get your damn ass and in the paint because
well,
you're going to score 60 to
you
70% of the
know, I
time.
agree with that, and I think I don't think Klay Thompson does that. He doesn't shoot a ton of free throws, but Steph
No,
gets to the line. He does that.
yep, he does that.
Now, I said this the other day. I said, how much criticism can we give Jason Tatum? Because you remember this. Magic Johnson, his first series against the Celtics was horrific. LeBron James against Dallas in his first NBA Finals with Miami was terrible.
Yep.
Jason Tatum's a young kid. He turned the ball over more than anyone has in the history of the NBA playoffs. So
So
I know he's a
two
dude.
of your favorite guys this year were the absolute masters of turnover.
Yes, they were. They
Your
were.
little pal in Atlanta,
Right.
that little guy that you like. Is somebody going to give him a good decent hairstyle this year? By the way,
By the
but
way,
anyhow,
if
and then
DeJounte Murray
Tatum.
goes, if DeJounte Murray goes there, he's 29-8 last year. They are legit. If they don't have to give up a lot of pieces to get him. But going back to this, I just say, look, he's young. He's got to learn. He didn't play well, and that's it. Is it more than that with Tatum?
Well, even at the beginning of the year, and I've said this elsewhere, Boston played Toronto right off early in the year, and with Tatum, and we know Boston struggled to begin the year, right? They just were
Terrible.
not in
20 and
sync.
21.
They were terrible. But that game, it was the second or third game of the season, and there you had Scotty Barnes completely frustrating Jason Tatum to the point where Tatum took a technical, and it's like, wait a second, you're mad because you're being guarded? You're mad? You're supposed to be a top level, top 5 player. Adjust your game and teach this rookie that he can't dominate you. He didn't do that. He gets frustrated. And I've never seen a guy that's supposed to be one of these top level elite players be so hesitant at times
And not
with
just that,
what he wants to do with what
I
he
got
wants to do with the ball.
I got so frustrated every time he drive to the lane, he gets stripped, and then he's holding up his hands like,
Hold
"Where's
on.
the foul?"
Yeah,
Like,
where's
come
the
on.
call?
Yeah. Okay,
I don't get it.
Keith, I think Boston's is in good shape. Now let's go to the Lakers. Okay, it came out a couple weeks ago that Anthony Davis did not pick up a basketball since the season
Poor
ended.
Greg. Poor Greg.
I mean,
He's gonna have an aneurysm.
I just did a whole thing about how LeBron's getting up at 5 o'clock on a remote island to work out, and Anthony Davis is supposed to be number 2. Now, I said this on previous shows. I said the problem with LeBron, he's too loyal. He loved J.R. Smith, right? Loved him. Okay. how can this go on? How can the Lakers be happy with this guy not even playing basketball? And it's not because he was injured.
So it may sound crazy, but there is a distinct difference between J.R. Smith and Anthony Davis. I could guarantee you J.R. Smith was shooting every day in the offseason and probably every day during the season. Even with all the issues and mishaps and the faffs that JR had, he still worked. And you can't always say that about Anthony Davis. And
You
I think
rarely can say it.
I think it's a 50-50 thing with Anthony Davis. Part of it is he just doesn't want to be that guy. The other part of it is he can't stay healthy because I don't care how much people want him to play at the 5. He is just not built to play heavy minutes at the 5. And when he's always injured, it's not helping the team. That's probably not helping his attitude either. So a little bit of it is on the Lakers a little that they need to not – they just need to get rid of the dream that he's going to be the star center in the NBA. He can definitely and should play minutes at the 5, but he's going to keep being injured if he's playing heavy minutes at the 5. And the other part of it is he just needs to want it, and I don't think he wants it all the time.
Listen, he's got the Ben Simmons syndrome. He likes basketball. He likes getting paid. He likes the opportunities it affords him, but he doesn't love it. And I don't know how LeBron, who lives, eats, and breathes basketball, can be loyal to a guy like that. I don't get it.
I think it's because LeBron sees the potential of Anthony Davis, so he will stick it out as long as he can. But it seems like his level of interest just goes down every year since the bubble. Like I said, part of that is constantly being injured. Part of that is not being utilized correctly by the team. I mean, because look at when they won the championship in a bubble, he was not the starting 5 in heavy minutes. That was JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard, and that worked perfectly. They could go to a small lineup where he was at the 5, LeBron was at the 4, and teams can do a whole lot about it. But if you're looking at him to play 30 minutes a game at the 5, then prepare for him to be injured for a season again.
Listen, I thought it was great when they had JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard, because those guys they'd start the game, and then the last 5 or 6 minutes they'd be in the game, and throughout that time they would mix in and out. And Anthony Davis only on rare occasion would be the 5 at the end of the game for 3 or 4 minutes. So JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard took a lot of pressure off him. All right, Greg, let's move to a team that I never understood. The Dallas Mavericks, they never got big-time free agents. I don't know why. Mark Cuban treats his players like God, but they made a good trade last week. They traded the number 26 overall pick, Boban, Trey Burke, and Marquise Chris to the Houston Rockets in exchange for Christian Wood. One healthy Christian Wood's 20-10. Does this make the Dallas Mavericks a much better team?
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. Because, I mean, if you watch the Mavericks in the playoffs, what was the problem? They couldn't score inside with any of their big guys. All their big players were trying to be Dirk Nowitzki. Well, there was only one Dirk Nowitzki in Dallas. You guys aren't it. Stop trying to make the 3-point shot constantly. Get your fat asses in the post and score some buckets.
So you like this deal for Dallas? You think it makes them a much better team?
Oh, absolutely. And the other reason, the reason why you have this mystique about certain spots in the NBA. Now, unfortunately, you, Stephen A. Smith, and all those other crazy loser Knicks fans think it's New York. It isn't, because the media in that city is just too brutal, and guys don't want to go there and live with that nonsense.
Well, let me just say this: I think that's partly true, but also no one wants to play for Dolan, and no one wants to play for Tom Thibodeau. No one wants to play a system that allows you to score 85 points.
But you are correct in this whole free agent thing in the state of Texas. I cannot understand. No personal income tax. You go to Houston, Dallas, or San Antonio. If you went to San Antonio, you got Popovich coaching you. I mean, the guy's a living legend, right? So it really, I don't understand why the 3 Texas teams can't get free agents either. It's never made any sense to me. Cuban, I mean, he treats his guys like they're God's gift to the world. You know, and maybe because the other team that is there is so overwhelming with all the attention all the time. It really doesn't matter what the Mavericks are doing; they're always going to be second fiddle
Second
to you
fiddle.
know who,
Yeah, that's a fair
right?
point. That's a fair point. To the
But
Dallas.
it seems to be free agency. They all seem to want to go to Miami, Los Angeles. Those are the two, and now Brooklyn
Yeah.
because it's that not quite as bad as the Knicks, right?
And better ownership. All right,
Yeah,
Keith. Are we at a crossroads with your Denver Nuggets? This team has been good, okay, but injuries have plagued them. They made it to the finals in the bubble. Injuries have just plagued them. When they're healthy, this group is so good. Where are we at with the Denver Nuggets? Do you expect them to win 60 games next year, be healthy, and compete for a title?
I mean, yeah, as you said, it comes down to health. I'm willing to give Michael Porter Jr. a pass. A lot of people were disgusted when they gave him the contract extension based on his past back injury coming out of college. But between when he started playing, when they actually put him in, and when they gave him the extension, he earned that extension. He had no back problems whatsoever, and then they got completely unlucky when they gave him the extension, and then it came back. So I'm willing to give him a couple more seasons. The player that I'm with a breaking point is Jamal Murray, um, one of the most talented guards in the league, one of the highest ceilings in the league, but he's not playing on the court often enough to be valuable to the team. And I'm not saying it's his fault that he get injured. It's just is what it is. But if he's going to keep being injured, then they got to move on from him because they need a consistent guard on that team to help take away some of that usage from Jokic. And it's something's got to give. Either he's going to be healthy or he's not going to be healthy. Seeing what Mike Malone has done the past 2 or 3 years, I'm not going to put the blame on him any longer because he's done great with just Jokic as the only consistent player on the team. And part of that is Kroenke lets good GMs go. They let Ujiri go. They just let Connolly go. If you want to have quality leadership in the team, you have to pay them quality money. And there were no indications that Connolly wanted the sun, moon, and stars. He just wanted to be paid what he was worth, and he didn't want to pay him that. So wisely, he went to a different team and got a little bit of a cherry on top of getting some ownership stake as well. So we'll see what happens when they replace someone in his position. And then really it falls down to the health of Jamal Murray. If he's not going to be healthy, if he misses 50, 60 games again in the season, they just got to move on.
So is
uh,
this the
Jamal,
situation?
Jamal is in, as they say, he's back home in Ontario, and apparently his workouts, he is really in a much better place.
Yeah, I mean, I don't doubt his desire or his will or his effort, but at the end of the day, it's a business. And
you got to stay healthy.
If he can't perform, then
if he's healthy, that franchise is a totally different franchise.
As much as I hate to see him go, but if he's not healthy, he can't. They got to move on.
But Keith, let's also remind Mr. Trey for MVP that it was the two of us who all year long said the MVP was Nikola Jokic. We got to take our shots every chance we get.
Listen, I say this all the time to people. If my team loses, I don't lose an ounce of sleep. Trey Young just signed over $200 million. I'm not upset that he didn't win MVP. I'll keep campaigning for him, but it's not big. Yeah, he deserved it. I mean, the Joker is basically playing. He's the only star on that team, and he's averaging 28, 12, 8. He's a triple-double machine. So, yeah, of course the Joker deserved it. But, Keith, finally, is this the last year with the coach and this core group of players? What would it mean to bring everyone back? Is it just enough for a Western Conference Finals, or you got to get to the NBA championship?
I think, given how much time they have not had to play together, I think if they can make it to the Western Conference Finals and be competitive in the Western Conference Finals, then you would at least see the core back, or you'll at least see the coach back. They just signed McMahon to an extension. He's not going anywhere.
That's what I was going to say. Were you shocked when they did that or no?
No, I think he's deserved it. He's had very little to work with for 3 or 4 seasons now. Even going back past that, when it was Jamal Murray and Gary Harris being injured, they were still competitive.
And having had to witness his father attempt to coach compared to him, the son is a better coach than the
Much
dad.
better. Yeah.
The dad is in that Tom Thibodeau range.
Great assistant coach. People loved him, but not a great head coach. Kawhi Leonard is cleared to play. He's been working out as well. Talk about guys working out in the offseason. All right, Greg, let's talk about your Raptors. Now, with all that's going on in America, I hate to say this, but if I was a free agent, why wouldn't I want to go play for the Raptors? They have a great coach. They have a great fan base, and you could spend the time in Canada and not worried about getting shot everywhere you go.
Yeah, well, I mean, that kind of helps. And as you made fun of the tweet I sent into our little chat, Nick Nurse actually played with Prince's band this weekend.
Really?
I saw that. That's what it was, right? I mean, Nick Nurse up there with the band that used to be with Prince, right? Prince's group. So it was kind of cool. He's just that kind of guy. And then, of course, the draft. They moved when they got Thad Young. They didn't have the first round pick anymore. One of the reasons why they moved that first round pick is because of the salary cap situation that they're in. Signing a first round pick puts them even more over the cap and all that other stuff. So they went down to a second rounder. And according to many, they've found themselves a gem possibly in the Koloko kid who is from the same hometown as Pascal. So he's got a big brother, little brother thing that's already built in happening. And of course, as you know, the thing with the Raptors, first and foremost, is their culture of togetherness. It is just absolutely mandatory that you have that. And Masai has built that culture.
So what's the ceiling for this team? You know, they're a couple years moved without Kawhi, and you and I both agree on this. This team, Kawhi was the final piece, but they were much more than that.
Absolutely.
What's the ceiling for this team?
The second best defensive rating ever in the playoffs belongs to that Toronto Raptors.
And weren't they like 17-5 without him or something like that? They had a great record without Kawhi. So what's the ceiling for this team? Are we talking, hey, second round playoffs next year, Eastern Conference Finals? I don't think they're better than Milwaukee. They're probably not going to be better than Miami. What do you see this team? How far can they go?
Again, it comes down to health, because really their starting five last year, they won 48 games. Vince Carter, Raptors never won 48. Bosch's Raptors never won 48 games. And this group only played 23 games together as a starting five unit. 23 games. That's it.
Wow.
So if they're together, if they're actually together with Pascal, OG, Scotty, Freddie, and Gary Trent Jr., they can do a lot of damage. And don't forget, the Milwaukee Bucks can't beat the Raptors. Giannis cannot beat them.
I will say this, though.
Reason, they have their number. They've got their number.
I will say this. They have done a tremendous job over the last 5 years in just rolling with the punches, whether it's getting Kawhi, getting without. They got rid of Kyle Lowry at the best time. Kyle Lowry's a shot fighter. He was on the back nine of his career. So they're making all the right moves. Okay, before we move to the NFL and Major League Baseball, did any of you guys have a problem with the Warriors when they won, basically using their platform, whether it was Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and just attacking the media? Keith, we'll start with you. Did you think that was kind of like chippy, or were you like, good for them, fight back? Because to me, you should tune out the media. Who cares what they say? They're idiots. Skip Bayless said that Tim Tebow and Johnny Manziel were going to be bigger on the field than LeBron is on the court. I mean, this is who they're listening to?
Here's what bugs me about the Warriors. And the player I'll use as an example is Patrick Beverley. Good or bad, Patrick Beverley is going to run his mouth no matter what. He could have the worst game of his career, and he's going to be talking all game. What I don't like about the Warriors is they are such heavy front runners. When they're really good, they are chirping all the day long.
Yeah.
When they're bad, you won't hear a peep out of them. I mean, and they have a right to quote unquote show their rear end after winning because everyone did discount them, including myself. They prove everybody wrong, but be that way the whole season. Like when they were really bad, when Draymond was injured, you did not see the Warriors that you saw in the finals with Steph doing a night and Draymond and his podcast. My only issue is that as a person who is running for president of Pettyville, be petty all the time. Just don't do when it benefits you.
Greg, please end this. Please end this. Draymond Green is not a Hall of Famer. In no way, shape, or form should this guy be in the Hall of Fame. He's not Dennis Rodman. And here's what I say all the time. He doesn't do anything great. To be in the Hall of Fame, Dennis Rodman was an absolute elite defender and a legendary rebounder and screener. Draymond Green's not great at everything. He's not a Hall of Famer.
But unfortunately, we're now in a different time.
You think he is? Wait a minute,
no,
Mr. Old School.
No, hey, no. Wait a second. You're not letting me finish now. I'm just going and taking the devil's advocate side here of this generation, this era, where they celebrate things that shouldn't be celebrated, like Draymond's big mouth on the court. I'm literally, you know how Earl Weaver used to get tossed out of baseball games with the lineup card by umpires?
Yeah.
I would give him 2 technicals at the second he walked on the court. Get out of here. I just can't handle that guy's mouth on the floor.
No, it's nonstop. It's nonstop.
And the hysterics that he goes through and all this other nonsense. No, I just don't like any of that. Is he a Hall of Famer in my eyes? No. I know in other people's, yes. But
I gotta disagree with both of you on that. I mean, the
guy.
Come
at it. You think he is?
He's a 4-time NBA champion. He's 2-time All NBA, 7-time All Defensive NBA, 2017 Defensive Player of the Year. If he's not a Hall of Famer, then why do we have a Hall of Fame? I mean, no, he doesn't score a lot of points. He may not get a whole lot of rebounds, but if you watch the Warriors play when he's on the court and when he's off the court, as much as people want to say Steph runs that team, that is not true. No. He had a bad finals, but they don't make it to the finals if he doesn't come back and be healthy.
No, Draymond is the coach on the floor. He's the coach on the floor, absolutely, and he has been for a long time. I give him credit for that stuff. But you put Draymond Green onto any other franchise in this league, and he is nothing.
Yeah, I agree.
The same thing about Keith Smith, though. If he doesn't play for the Rockets, is he anyone? No.
Yep, that's right. That's it. But that's what I always say about all of this, though. It boils down to the luck of the draw to where you go, because you can fit somewhere and be an absolute disaster elsewhere. Right?
And that's what I say about the Knicks when they draft someone, or the Jets. People were killing me about Zach Wilson.
Or they don't draft anybody.
Yeah, exactly. That's what the Knicks did. Yeah, because they think they're going to go out and get a high-price free agent, which they won't. Okay, let's move to the NFL here. Greg, this came out last week. I don't know if it's a big deal or not, but Mike McCarthy got fined $100,000. This is the second year in a row because he's violating rules regarding off-season practices. Is this much to do about nothing, or is he going to turn players off with working them too hard in the off-season? Because there are rules.
No. And the players even said they don't even know what justifies being overly physical, because all you're doing at the mini camp and OTAs now is installing the scheme. Yeah, that's it. That's all you get to do. There's not that much physical contact going on. You got everybody's wearing the pad over the helmet that's supposed to be, and that they've got going now. And so where they were overly physical came from, who knows? It really is silly. Rivera and Washington got the same fine. And meanwhile, Sirianni in Philadelphia, they had zero contact and will not until the training camp at all. Because they don't know what justifies what constitutes this being overly physical.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we'll get into Mike McCarthy in Dallas in a minute. I don't see the big deal, but what it is, they didn't just fine the Dallas Cowboy organization; they fined Mike McCarthy. So that's a lot of money.
And they took an OTA away.
Yeah. So All right,
Let's be
Keith.
honest though, it's the Cowboys. They will stick it to them every chance they get.
That's right. That's right, because I'm scared that when Deshaun gets his 2 seasons, half of that's going to be taken over by Ezekiel Elliott for no reason at all.
All right, Keith, talk to me. Tell me why in the best division in football, the Denver Broncos are going to win this division.
Um, I'll rephrase the question. I'll tell you why they're the best to dethrone the Chiefs.
Okay.
As much as people want to say the sky is falling with Tyreek Hill being gone from the Chiefs, I think the Chiefs proved last season, especially in the second half of the season, they were still the class of the division. The Broncos definitely got better, but I still think their quarterback play was so terrible that the Chiefs were still that much better than them last year. So I
But
think they're in a good position.
Their play calling was also just as brutal.
Terrible.
I don't have enough time to talk about Pat Shermer. So. But I think they are the best to dethrone the Chiefs just because their defense is not going to lose a step, even with Vic Fangio gone. I think he was great for the defense over those last few years, but they'll bring in another great defensive coordinator. They still have the great defensive pieces. More importantly, they have an offensive-minded head coach, which is what they've been lacking for 3 straight coaches now. Someone who's going to make the tough calls and go for it on 4th down and go for a touchdown instead of a field goal. But am I going to pick anyone to win the division outside of the Chiefs? No. Even though they did lose Tyreek Hill, they very quietly had one of the best drafts in the division, if not in the entire league. They filled a lot of holes in the draft. They filled a lot of holes in free agency. I've seen them enough now that I'm not crazy enough to just discount them just because they lost one player. I mean, they still have one of the best quarterbacks in the league. They still have Eric Bieniemy. They still have Andy Reid, but they're not going to run away with the division like they have been the past few years because every single team in that division outside of them got better. And I think the Broncos were best in that aspect. So it's kind of, I'll say they'll not win the division when they lose the division. Like someone's got to dethrone them before I don't pick them.
Keith, but a lot of criticism has come to John Elway and the ownership of the Denver Broncos. But if you look at what they've done since Elway retires, they've brought in 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. You bring in Peyton Manning, you win a Super Bowl, and now you bring in a Hall of Famer in Russell Wilson. So all the criticism for the ownership, I always say this: I'll suck as a team for 3 years if you could give me a ring once every 5 years. Are you happy?
Yeah, but I don't think you could credit Elway for that. He caught lightning in a bottle when he got Peyton Manning in that one free agency period in which they got Aqib Talib and they also got who was the safety, TJ Ward. He, let's be honest, got lucky because outside of that, they've been terrible since Peyton left.
Okay.
But now that he's not running the team, and we can see that he's not doing that because the moves that George Patton has made are completely opposite of what John Elway has done outside of that 1 year in which they got that good free agency class. So I think it's more on George Patton that he is finally making the moves that Elway wouldn't, and that's why the team is getting better.
So obviously, Greg, I'm rooting for the Chargers this year. I think they improved. I think Kansas City is going to be just as good as long as Andy Reid won 13 games with Alex Smith. Okay, so Andy Reid could coach no matter who's there. But when you look at what the Raiders have done, okay, forget about Devontae Adams for a minute. They have 2 studs in Max Crosby and Chandler Jones. Now you get Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, who's basically Wes Welker. He had 103 catches last year. The Raiders could be the best team in the league. They made the playoffs last year. They could be the best team, not just in the AFC West, but in the entire league.
The AFC West is just going to be an absolute gunfight at the OK Corral. These 4 teams are just loaded to the hilt. I mean, it's just insane what we saw happen in this offseason, even after trading Tyreek Hill away, etc. You look at all of their drafts, you look at the free agencies, the trades that they made. All 4 of them are just loaded for bear. Now, I'm going to voice my the Broncos aren't going to be there. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Keith.
Are you as high
Um,
on the Chargers as I am?
I got to see the new additions on the field with them. I mean, they had an excellent draft again, second straight year that they did. But I have to see because they drafted guys at the holes, right? Those holes that they needed to fill, they did in the draft. Do these guys come in and make an impact for them right away? Otherwise, I think the Chargers are like that 1 year away, right?
Okay.
The Raiders, what scares me is I still am not a Josh McDaniels. After what Josh McDaniels did as a head coach in Denver, I'm in show me mode because
Right.
he was a nightmare,
Yep.
right?
He drafted Tim Tebow, right? He's the one who said, "Let's get Tebow." That was
Let's
him,
not
right?
talk about
I believe
let's-
so. I believe
yeah.
so.
That's
Keith,
not. You need to bring that up. That's not right.
yes, we do. Yes, we do. You guys wanted
Listen,
to bring up my Lakers.
You guys brought up the Knicks. I mean, come
Yes.
on.
But here's the most important thing about the Raiders that you're forgetting. That are Raiders. They will. The hashtag for the Avalanche this postseason was find a way. The Raiders or the Cowboys and AFC. They will find a way to screw it up.
I love when you take a shot at the Cowboys. That's good.
They have always been our AFC cousins, the Raiders and the Cowboys, the two most hated teams in the league offices in New York by far. It's the Raiders and the Cowboys. And anything either one does, the league will come down and attack.
A little promo here. I am coming out with an article later today called 5 Reasons Why the Atlanta Falcons Can Make the Playoffs. Now, part of the reason is, real quick, Drew Brees is no longer there. Sean Payton is no longer there. Carolina under Matt Rule, I think, is 10-23. So that's a division that's opened up. They have a ton of skill position players for Marcus Mariota to throw to who are all over 6'3". And I think if Cordell Patterson, who had 600 rushing yards, 500 receiving yards, can fill the void and be a running back, this team's not going to be as bad as they think. Greg, we'll start with you. Who is your surprise team this year in the AFC and the NFC? My brother just told me before we went on the air, the Cincinnati Bengals have sold out for the first time. Are the Bengals a one-off, or are they a legitimate threat to get back to the AFC Championship, Greg?
Well, you got to consider them legitimate at this point. They made improvements on their offensive line, which had been their supposed big weakness. You look at the numbers that Burrow and Chase put up. Sorry, all you Vikings fans, and thinking Justin Jefferson was the greatest rookie wide receiver ever. He only lasted 1 year with that, which I get a kick out of when everybody overhypes somebody like that. Just 1 year later, Jamar Chase breaks Justin Jefferson's numbers. That all the Vikings fans were so happy about, and he's the best ever. Really, it's over.
Well, but he's Greg. He's pretty good. Justin Jefferson's a legitimate star.
but no, you know what I'm saying.
Where
the hype goes right off the charts.
I get it.
1 season later, just one. There's Jamar Chase beating his numbers as a rookie. So
who's your surprise team in the AFC and the NFC?
I'm going to stick to the AFC North because, again, as you know, I'm old school, and I think the most expensive defense in the NFL resides in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
And
I think Mitchell Trubisky can win there. I do.
Yes, he can. I can't wait. I can't wait for it. I cannot wait for it because he's a mobile enough quarterback. He showed he was mobile in Chicago. He's mobile enough to operate what they want to do for that offense. And if that defense plays to the level that they're being paid at, I mean, TJ Watt and everybody else, you just you go all 3 levels and you're going, these guys are nasty. And if the Steelers just play that to that level, they don't have to win big, they can win ugly. The Steelers could be the surprise in the AFC, and the team in the NFC that I think is going to surprise everybody, the Detroit Lions.
Oh, come on.
I am
Greg.
serious.
It's Detroit.
Look at the games they lost last year. Look at the games they were losing last year. They were not getting blown out by anybody.
By the way,
lost a lot
Pro Football Focus.
games.
Yeah, no, they did. But Pro Football Focus has their offensive line, I think, number 7 or 8. So they want to run the ball with Swift. You want to protect Jared Goff. So listen, it's just the Lions, so I wouldn't go there. But
Sewell in year 2,
yeah,
and what they've
yeah.
done on the defensive side of the football, I don't think it's going to be a big shock if the Lions turn those games around this year, and maybe they're the second team in that division that gets into the playoffs.
And I will say this: forget about the Lions because it's the Detroit Lions. But if Mike Tomlin could get to the playoffs with Big Ben, who basically was a less mobile version of Peyton Manning the year he won the Super Bowl, Big Ben couldn't throw the ball 20 yards down the field.
No.
Imagine what he could do with Mitchell Trubisky.
Yep.
All right, Keith, what do you got in the AFC and the NFC? Who are your 2 surprise teams?
I'm gonna go with the Steelers as well, because Greg and I are on the same page when it comes, for the most part, to defense. Is that you can't just get away completely with having a completely terrible defense. I mean, and a lot of people point to the Chiefs and their defense. It was not one that's going to win you games, but they played, especially when they were making it to the Super Bowl, they made a lot of timely stops. But you can't have a defense that's just going to leak like a sieve. And they have the highest payroll on defense in the NFL. What scares people is they also have the lowest payroll on offense in the NFL. And I think Mitch Trubisky is good enough that he will hold them together for the first few weeks. And I imagine that they are going to make some trades, probably of some of that defensive depth, to get some offensive players to kind of even it out a little bit before the season is over. The Bengals are really good. They shore up that offensive line, so that's going to help Joe Burrow a lot. The Browns are screwed because Deshaun Watson is going to miss a lot of time. Baker Mayfield doesn't want to be there, so they're without a quarterback. They don't have a lot of good wide receivers at the skill position. The defense is pretty good, but that's just a team that's going to be in turmoil. And as much as I don't want it to happen, history tells us the Ravens are probably going to suffer significant injury again. That's what's happened for the last 2 or 3 years now. So it's right there for the Steelers with that defense. I don't know if they'll win the division because I still think the Bengals are really good, but they will push the Bengals really hard, and I think they're going to get a wild card spot in the AFC.
And in the NFC, who do you like?
As much as I dislike the quarterback of this team, I am going to say the Vikings.
Wow.
Just because I don't think the Niners are going to push them very much. I can't remember the other team in that division because they're irrelevant.
Packers, Bears.
Bears. That's it. Yeah, they're irrelevant because Matt Nagy is still a coach. Or did he get fired?
They did fire him.
He's gone.
Yeah, so that's good, but they still don't know what they're doing at quarterback, so that is not going to help very much. Or he doesn't have a lot of help either.
Justin Fields does not have a lot of help. He lost Robinson to the Rams, so he doesn't. So I could see the Vikings just because I think the Packers are going to take a step back. They won't win 13, 14 games. They'll probably win 11 or 12. So the Lions have gotten better. The Bears are going to be rebuilding. So that's a legitimate argument for the Vikings. Okay, we got a couple minutes left here talking with Keith Richards and Greg Rector. Make sure to give us a thumbs up. Nuts and Bolts Sports YouTube channel. Greg, let's start with you. Are the Yankees as good as I think they are? They're 11 games in front. By the way, big series for your Toronto Blue Jays. We'll get to that in a minute because Boston has won 7 in a row. They've won like 8 out of 10. Boston is playing well. Are the Yankees as dominant as I think they are?
Right now they are. Yep. You just go through. I mean, Houston did no-hit them. It took 3 guys. So they did have a no-hitter on the weekend against them. But you look at that lineup, and they just get hits. And quite often they get the big bomb when they want it, right? With Judge and Stanton. So right now the Yankees are doing it defense, pitching, and hitting. They got all 3 working, and that's tough combination to beat when the talent level is there with them.
I look at the Yankees
the
lineup.
Red Sox, by the way, are like 28-7 in their last 35 games.
You know, they played. No one's talking about them. I think I
They've
looked
turned
this
around.
morning.
They've completely turned around from
Turned
the
it
beginning
around.
of the
They
year.
were awful, and no one's. I think they're 10 games above 500 now or whatever. They were
Yeah.
horrible. They're really good right now. So it's going to be tough for Toronto.
And
But Keith,
they're doing it without Sale and those guys. They're
oh
doing it
yeah,
without them.
listen. But you look at the Yankees lineup, I look at the Dodgers lineup, and 1 through 9 can hit 20 home runs. Keith, along those same line, my Mets are without their top 3 pitchers. Are they as good as I think they are? Because they're 5 games ahead of Atlanta. And you saw the Mets last 2 weekends ago in Colorado. How good are the Mets teams on the outside looking in?
I think they can be good. And it's the oddest thing to say, but I have to see what they do when their pitchers are healthy. Because
Yeah.
they have this strange thing that when Jacob DeGrom is on the mound, they just completely forget how to hit whatsoever.
Yeah, that's true.
And they're hitting great right now. And if they can be the same team that they are when he comes back and their other pitchers come back, I think there's a good chance that they could make it to the World Series. But it will depend on if they can be the team with Jacob DeGrom that they are without him. Because with him, they just don't play well, which makes no sense whatsoever. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball, and you just give him 0 run support. But if they can continue to give run support and have him come back and be a dominant pitcher, they're going to be a tough team to beat.
What I really like about the Mets, and Greg, you'll like this, they're playing baseball like it's 1985. It's small ball. Listen to these stats.
Yeah.
They're third in runs. They're second in batting average. They're 17th in home runs. They're not relying on the long ball. They're making productive outs, sacrifice, move the runner over, and they're doing what the Yankees used to do when they had that dominant team where I think they won 4 out of 5 World Series with Jeter, Paul O'Neill. The first inning, they're working your pitcher. They're taking 3-2, 3-2. So by the fourth, fifth inning, your starter's gassed. And that's what the Mets have been doing. They've been playing small ball. All right, let's move to your Toronto Blue Jays against the hot Boston team. Toronto about where you expected, a little bit disappointing or better than you thought? Because I had this team as a playoff team.
Disappointing, and it started from the get-go. They didn't have the hitting going except for Vladdy at the beginning of the year. Their pitching was just off the charts. Then they lost Teoscar Hernandez. He missed 21 games, and let me tell you, that entire batting order went to hell in a handbasket. Everybody started trying to do too much. They at one point when Teoscar was out, and even after he came back for a bit, they were hitting 171 with runners in scoring position.
Wow.
Like it was just frightening, right? So then that straightens out a little bit, and now it's the pitchers. They lost Ryu for the season. Kikuchi, who I wasn't thrilled that they signed. I've never seen a guy, especially a left-hander, who has a fastball that's an above-average fastball for a left-handed pitcher. He's afraid to use it. He's afraid of it. And it's, what are you doing? Establish the fastball. Go after these guys. You don't have to be on the plate with every single fastball, but use it and go after these guys. But no, the other day, what does he do? The first guy up, 12 pitches, 9 sliders.
Wow.
Like if I'm Montoya and Pete Walker, I'm saying you shake off a catcher. We're going to find you. We're going to find you. Done.
Yeah.
You shake a catcher off one more time, you're getting fined every time you do it. You're going to, and then Barrios has also been up and down, which is highly unusual because throughout his whole career, he's always been that guy that is right around the plate. And he's had to adjust. He's moved his footwork from the right-hand side of the rubber to the left. He's trying different things, but right now he still can't find it either.
Greg, I saw this, and this is amazing. Look at this. Like father, like son. Vladimir Guerrero and his son both had 87 home runs, on base percentage of 363 in their first 400. People don't realize Vlad Guerrero was one of the first 5-tool players.
Oh.
He was if Vlad Guerrero played anywhere outside of Montreal back in the day, people would be like, this man was one of the best of all time.
But they did know. Even when he was in Montreal, they did know that about Vlad Sr. Like, I mean, everybody would rave about Vlad Sr. You couldn't throw a pitch that he couldn't get at, right? I mean, he was. I've never seen anybody who could hit so many bad pitches. Now, if Junior would learn a little bit of that, because they're pitching him really differently. He started off so hot, had 7 home runs, went on an absolute nosedive, did nothing for a month home run wise. He's up to 17 now, but that was again at the beginning of this month. The last little stretch, he's done nothing again. He's been too hot and cold with it, right? And that's been the frustrating part with Toronto. And here's their week: they get 3 with Boston and 5 in 4 days with Tampa.
Yeah. And look,
Like,
Tampa and Toronto are tied. They're both 40 and 32. Mets are
Yep.
off tonight. I have the MLB package, so I'm going to watch my Boston Red Sox hopefully take it to your Toronto Blue Jays. All right, Keith, I didn't expect much from the Colorado Rockies this year, especially with that division when you look at the Dodgers and the Padres. But one of the things that shocked me is they're about 500 at home. Normally, Colorado, you're going to win 10, 15 more games at home. What is the problem with this team? Are they rebuilding, or is it a 3-4 year process?
Problem with the team is the owner. The Monforts are terrible. They are the Rockies are the only major league team in Colorado that does not have a Kroenke connection. So when you look at the Broncos, the Walton just brought that. He's married to the daughter of Stan Kroenke, I think it is.
Yep.
Nuggets have Kroenke, the Rapids, the Avalanche. Then you have the Rockies, who are consistently terrible because the ownership is consistently terrible. Are they
Keith,
rebuilding?
I've watched them play. They have some talent in their roster.
They do, but they have no idea how to utilize that talent. They have talent that is good as the role players of a team. So, I mean, just look at what they've done the past 2 seasons. They wouldn't pay Nolan Arenado. They wouldn't pay Trevor Story. And then they pay Chris Bryant what they wouldn't pay Nolan Arenado.
Which made no sense.
Chris Bryant
whatsoever.
has missed significant time to injury, which is something I guarantee you Nolan Arenado will not have done. Trevor Story may have started bad in Boston, but he's come on a lot lately. They don't have centerpieces to build on that team. And as much as I love Charlie Blackmon, he's not the centerpiece of a team. That was Nolan Arenado. That was Trevor Story. The coaching seems to have fallen off as well. It's just they don't know what they're doing, and you can only point to the owner on that.
Well, yeah, but when you point just to the owner, that also means you got to point to the people he's put in the front office. I mean, they're not well run.
No,
and it goes top down.
And the problem is the Monforts are Colorado royalty, so you will have to pry that team away from their cold dead hands. So this is going to go on for a long time.
And listen, one thing we know about Major League Baseball with revenue sharing is you can be terrible for a couple of years and the owners don't care because they're still getting their money. They split the revenue. The TV contracts are through the roof. Listen, I got MLB package just because I thought the Mets rebid. So Keith, I always say this with the Mets, with the Knicks, like for the Knicks or the Jets, keep me invested to December. For the Knicks, keep me invested until February. For my Mets, I would say keep me invested to July 1st. Now, the Mets are going to be good. They'll probably make the playoffs. What do you do when your team stinks? Do you still watch the game when they're this bad, or you don't even watch anymore?
No. I got 2 kids. I'm not going to try to fit that into my schedule when they're that terrible.
But if they were good, you'd be watching them.
Yeah, I mean, I watch as many Nuggets games as I can because it wasn't even when they were like pushing conference finals. I would still watch them because they're entertaining to watch and they tried.
Yeah.
And I can't say that about the Rockies. I mean, you look at what's going on. Every team has gotten better. Even the Rapids have gotten better, and they aren't as good as they were at the beginning of the season. I mean, you just had the Avalanche win the Stanley Cup. You had even the Premier Lacrosse League championship come to the Colorado Mammoths. And what are the Rockies doing? I don't know because I'm not watching them.
All right, Greg, give us your AL and NL representative in the World Series.
Oh, boy.
Hey, wait. I'm going to try to influence you. Are you ready? I'm just going to try to
Here
influence
we
you
go.
just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Here we go.
Yeah, I kind of thought that was coming. Yeah, you want a Subway Series. Da da da. Yeah. Um, I'm going to disappoint you because, as you know, I'm a lifelong St. Louis Cardinals fan, and we haven't gotten to August and September. You know, when the Cardinals just don't lose baseball games. So I'm still holding out hope for my Cardinals in the National League. Although right now I would have to take the Dodgers. I really
Yeah.
would.
I think the
Um,
Dodgers are still the
I
best
think
team, although Milwaukee's playing really good as well. The Brewers are playing well.
Milwaukee and St. Louis are playing very well.
Yeah.
Milwaukee just took 2 out of 3 from Toronto on the weekend. But if you're talking about the World Series matchup, it's that evil empire in the AL.
Yeah, it's hard to go against the Yankees.
You can't bet against them right now.
And even worse, who are you going to root against? If it's Houston, New York, who the hell are you rooting against? Right? Because you can't say both. Houston cheated, and the Yankees are the evil empire.
But here's the thing. We just named them all, though. That AL East, they are so good. Tampa, Boston, Toronto, and the Yankees could all be the 4 teams in the playoffs for the AL.
Watch out for Boston, like you said. I didn't know it was 35 out of their last 42 or whatever.
28
out of 35.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they've been playing great. The first half of the season, they were terrible. All right, Keith, who do you like in the American League and the National League?
As much as I would like to see a Subway Series as well, just because that's a great story, I think it's going to be a battle of the coast where it's going to be the Yankees versus the Dodgers. Because
who you root for? Keith, who would you root for there?
Who would I root for? I would keep playing.
You can't
FIFA
root for the
22.
Dodgers, right?
I'll be playing FIFA 22 of that on his background though. It's just to be informed. But I think as George said, when the Dodgers get healthy, they're going to be a lot better. And as good as the Red Sox have been coming up, it's just too much ground to make up. I mean, there's still a lot of baseball left to be played, but you would have to expect.
Yeah, but Keith, they don't have to win the division. They don't have to win the
division, but at some point they're going to have to go through the Yankees.
Yeah, that's true.
But you also have to deal with those law of averages, right? I mean, and in baseball, we've seen it so many times where that team that is the 504, the just above 500, can knock off that team that's playing 600 ball. I mean,
that's why I say
it doesn't happen very often.
If the Mets get healthy and you have a healthy DeGrom who's rested, you have a healthy Max Scherzer and Tyler McGill, and then you have Taijuan Walker as your 4th starter. I mean, that could be 3 straight games where the Mets starting pitcher holds the Dodgers to 1 or 2 runs, in a short series. So I mean, you have 2 or 3 elite pitchers.
That's a possibility, but by the same turn of hand, the Dodgers lineup could force every single one of those pitchers to
give up 5 runs.
Right?
Like I'll give you a fair comparison.
You just don't know.
You look at the Stanley Cup where you have the best goalie in the whole NHL, and
Shesterkin didn't play.
In the finals. You had to get him going.
Okay, one of the best goalies, top 2 goalies in the NHL,
okay.
And as good as he is, a team, the Avalanche just applied so much offensive pressure that in those situations, almost always, whether it's baseball, basketball, NFL, the offense is going to win out because that's what they want. And that's what happened in the Stanley Cup. I'm always going to lean on the offense because that's the way they're designing the games. So if you have 2 teams that are about even on defense, whatever team has the best offense, and I think that is the Yankees or the Dodgers. That's who you have to go with.
Yeah. No, I agree. Listen, the Mets have 2 glaring weaknesses. Their catchers have the lowest production out of any catchers in Major League Baseball. I think combined, the 3 of them have 4 home runs. They've been pathetic, and they've been so inconsistent at third base.
You want production at catcher? Look at the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Have you seen those numbers that Kirk is putting up? And they're getting Jansen back, and they love Collins. One of them has got to be dealt. So if you need help with catcher in the Mets organization, I would think Danny Jansen's name is going to be coming up.
Well, the Mets have a catcher in Double-A right now who's supposed to be the number 7 prospect throughout all baseball. He had 7 straight games where he hit a home run, and I don't know why the
Yeah.
Mets didn't call him up, but they said they're not going to call him up till next year. They don't want to rush
Yeah.
the kid.
They don't
He's
want to rush
21
him.
years old. They don't want to
So
rush him.
there's a guy that would be available in Toronto, and Danny Jansen, who can hit home runs. He's a very solid defensive catcher as well. There you go. We need arms though. In back, it cost arms. Yeah.
Final question for you, Keith, before we let you go. What's the mood like? Because I don't know what it feels like. The last time my team won a championship was 1994. What does it feel like? Because you were stressed last night. I kept telling you, now you got this. What does it feel like to have your team that you followed all year finally reach the pinnacle? I don't know what it feels like. What's the mood like in Denver today?
I mean, Denver was already still on a high from getting Russell Wilson with the Broncos. So you add the Avalanche winning the cup on top of that after 20-some years. People are happy. I'm sure my neighbors hated me because I let out a primal roar when that final buzzer went off. So it just keeps compounding because people expect the Nuggets are going to be good again. People expect the Broncos are going to be good again. So
Keith, is there any talk from Wilson or the Broncos organization about we're bringing a winning mentality now, or our goal is to win the Super Bowl? They haven't even mentioned that.
Not a whole lot
Right.
publicly, okay. Which I think is good. Because just because you have a really good team, it is still really hard to make it to the Super Bowl and win. But one thing you do hear a lot out of the players is how the mood has changed with Hackett as coach, right. with Vic Fangio gone, about how much they're having fun again because they can have music in the locker room and practices. So it's really high spirited, and as silly as it sounds, that goes a long way with a team, especially when the Emperor of Doom and his assistant are finally gone after so many years. A lot of people publicly, they're not saying much. I'm sure they expect privately, but as far as fans go publicly, they are expecting at least a run at the Super Bowl.
Okay, fair enough. Keith, how can we follow you? Tell us what you're doing with Nuts and Bolts Sports and media credentials that you're looking for.
So at 5280 Keith, as this is on the screen, doing a lot of soccer lately. I cover the Rapids, Colorado Rapids for Nuts and Bolts. Just got a chance on Saturday to go see the U.S. national women's team beat Colombia 3-0 at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. So we're just getting as many credentials as we can to get our name out there. And
how far is that from your house?
Oh, it's a drive. It's a good hour.
Okay, all right.
But hey, you get media credentials. They feed you good food in the press box. Yes. You get to see the game for free, and you get to watch sports. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Yep. All right, Keith. We'll see you down the road. Great job. Thank you so much.
Peace out. Take care.
All right, that was Keith Richards. Definitely follow him. Always does a good job. Greg, real quick, we didn't get to this answer. So if the Blue Jays don't make the playoffs, are we going to see changes, or is this sort of trust the process? It's a tough division. We're headed in the right direction.
Oh, you're going to have to see changes because of the contract situations. They invested a lot in the pitching staff, but you got Bo Bichette, Vladdy coming up. You've got Lourdes Gurriel Jr. So many of the guys in the field, they're coming up for their deals. And you don't want to get into the whole arbitration mess with too many guys, right? You can have it with one or two guys maybe, but you don't want to have all of that going on. I mean, look at Aaron Judge. They settled at $19 million instead of having it get ugly. How are you gonna walk in right now and say, well, Aaron Judge doesn't do this very well, doesn't do that very well. He's crushing everything in sight. So I mean, they settled.
If
right?
Lindor can get $350 million, what is Vlad gonna get? I mean, what is Guerrero gonna get?
I think Vladdy will be like in the $400 million.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Which is
he's
just ridiculous.
He's going to be there, and I think they should actually just do it. I mean, it's not really a money issue because you got Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. They are a consortium from two of the biggest communications companies in this country, Rogers and Bell. They've got the capital. They just have the capital, right? They can outbid anybody if they wanted to. They could just turn them. They could outbid the Yankees for Aaron Judge if they decided that that's what they wanted to do, right? They could do it.
I'll tell you a funny story. When James Dolan got the Knicks, the Rangers for his 40th birthday present that his dad gave him, he also took over Madison Square Garden Network, and the
Yeah,
Yankees were on the network. And what
yeah,
happened is the Yankees were due up for their contract, and the Yankees wanted to charge him like I think $4 or $5 more million per year,
per
and he
year.
said no.
Yeah,
Yes Network right now is the number one. It's more popular than MLB Network. And
yeah.
just to show you James Dolan's incompetence, he gave up the New York
He
Yankees.
gave up the Yankees. He gave up the Yankees. I mean, it's just as bad as CBS in the 1970s giving up the Yankees for Steinbrenner.
Yeah, yeah.
Steinbrenner bought them for a song, right?
So it's just
Um,
crazy. So you're
yeah.
saying if they don't make the playoffs, they're going to break it up and do different things.
Well, they've also got one of the deepest minor league systems, right? It's right now rated, I think, fifth overall. So they've got a lot of young arms. They've got a lot of other young guys at the positions. So it's hard to say, right? But I would think that they're going to absolutely do whatever it takes to keep Vladdy, of course.
I
Bo
mean, they are.
Bichette.
They are. You think they're going to make the playoffs, right? I mean, I had them as a playoff team.
Oh,
They have enough talent.
I've watched them. I've watched them enough, and the others, Boston, Tampa, and like I said earlier, I think all four in the AL East could be in the playoffs.
Yeah, okay.
They're right there, right? They're ahead of they're just ahead of the Minnesotas as far as the wild card goes right now. So yeah, I mean the talent is there, but this is going to be the last year where we get to see these guys go 19 times at one another.
Right. Yeah.
They're changing that,
The
right?
schedule changes next year.
Down to 14 division games.
Yeah. A lot
It's
more interleague games that
20,
they're.
20 you
Yeah.
play everybody in the other league
Yep. Yep.
next
So it's.
starting next year, right?
Yep. Yep.
Which you know I'm not a huge fan of interleague. You know
No,
I'm not a fan of the DH coming universal and all that
I,
sort of stuff.
I don't mind the DH because I never wanted to see a pitcher get up, but I don't like this traveling. I mean, there's too many games in baseball. There's way too many
Well,
games.
this stretch right now that the Jays are on is 40 games in 41 days.
You know, it's
What
insane.
happened to days? What happened to days off?
It's insane. The Mets had a stretch where they played 28 games in 30 days, and s-
And, well,
and like three of them were double headers.
when was it? It was 2 weeks ago that they had the 2 days off. Finally, the stretch before that they had gone 30 and 31 days.
No, it's ridiculous. Uh,
No, it's crazy.
Greg,
That's
how can we
that's too much.
follow you? How can we support you? What do you got going on for the NFL this year?
At Greg Cowboys on Twitter, Cowboys Corner at nutsandboltsports.com, and that's what I'll be doing. Following the Cowboys, I'll also be putting in things about the Blue Jays and the Raptors, seeing as how I live up here and get to see every single one of them.
Of course,
Um,
George, not to interrupt you, but of course, George has to enter. George always has to get a Dodger comment in there.
And George, because you are my brother in anger, if it does turn into the Dodgers and Yankees, you absolutely know I will be supporting Dodger Blue. We will be together on that front because he is my brother in anger.
Yes, he
So,
is. All right, Greg, love having you on. Thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it. I'll be tweeting you when Boston wins tonight.
well, we'll see what happens. They're in the first inning.
And I didn't know they won 28 out of 35. Wow.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I was watching the Jays Brewers yesterday,
Right.
and Schulman said they've won 28 out of and they're
They
28
were
and 20 in
horrific
the
to
last
start the
35.
year. Horrific.
And no, and then I stopped and well, yeah, that makes sense because that would now put them 10 games over
10 games over
500,
500, yep.
right? Because they were horrible.
Horrible. They
So,
looked like they didn't want to play. They looked totally
but
unmotivated.
see, that's the whole thing about baseball, though. They got hot. The Yankees could just as easily get cold. They
Listen,
could
the
go
Mets were
cold
11 games in first place. Now they're down to 5 because the
down to
Braves
5,
won like
right?
14 straight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why I never really get too concerned about pennant races until well after the All-Star break. Get me to the end of August, I start worrying about it come Labor Day.
Well, just so
You
for
know?
fans, you are correct there, but just so fans know, I think 73% of all teams that are in first place on July 1st make the playoffs. They don't win, but they make the playoffs.
They make the playoffs,
Yeah.
right? But what I'm talking about is how you finish.
No one thought the Braves were going to win it last year. No one did.
No, nobody had, especially with the injuries that they had, right?
Yep.
You lose Osuna, and they still go, what?
Yeah,
and they just destroyed everybody. They
really
destroyed people. I mean, that's the thing about baseball.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
That's right. So can't get too excited, can't get too down, and all that jazz right now. We'll see what happens.
Greg, before I let you go, there's a disturbing trend. You and I are starting to agree a lot more. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Well, no, you're paying attention to all the things I keep telling you over and over again.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
Except of course for the Monte man crushes. This is what we got to get rid of. That's the one part we got to get rid of it.
I got my Mariota. I got Justin Herbert and Trey Young and Lindor. Lindor. But
yes, Lindor. You got
he's pretty damn good though. All right, Greg, we got to get out of here. Thanks so much. Appreciate the time. Take care. All right, I want to thank Greg Rector. I want to thank Keith Richards, the Nuts and Bolts Sports Crew. Make sure to give us a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. We will not be back. Next Sunday is obviously 4th of July. Celebrate your independence while we have it. Thank you so much for taking time out to spend with us. In the immortal words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. That will never be broken. They hit big shots with Luka. I think the Clippers have no idea. Oh, look at that reaction. Look at that reaction.